Thank you. We're back from break, and we will now reconvene. Our next speaker will be Heather Niemer. Sorry, Heather. And I'll let you speak.
Good evening. I am definitely in favor of scenario A. Closing public schools creates a hardship for communities. In a 2015 article from the National Education Association, Linda Darling-Hammond, a faculty director at Stanford University Center for Opportunity Policy and Education, said, "If your only recourse for school challenges is closing schools, then you're not figuring out strategies and building on what succeeds." Beverly Hills is more than just a place for our children to learn. The school is a place for community education. For example, we have a health fair in the spring where attendees can come. They can have pre-diabetic screenings and visit and obtain health-related information from numerous volunteers there to share the information with the community. Many of the nearby business owners and trade workers come together to volunteer their time each year at the annual Career Day to teach the 4th and 5th grade students about future employment opportunities. The community is brought together because of the school. Closing Beverly Hills will have a ripple effect, leading to the deterioration of other pieces of the community. Schools are indicators of a community's viability and sustainability. They influence where families choose to live, property values, tax revenue, residential and commercial growth. People buy homes in this area for this school. Without the neighborhood school, this area will not draw in potential families like in the past. Nearby property values will decrease. This will make it difficult to rotate real estate and to attract young families into the heart of Concord. The effects on a neighborhood after a school closing can cause strained community relations. This is especially true if the decision-making process is done so, leaving the citizens feeling belittled, angry, and bitter. There is less confidence in decision-making and withdrawn support from community leaders. A school board could be affected for years as part of the consequences of closing a school. This could also carry through to other county and city officials. We, the neighbors in and around Beverly Hills, care about the best interest of our community and our children. We believe it is in our best interest for Beverly Hills STEM Elementary to stay open. Please, when the day comes for you to make your decision, choose scenario A and let the Beverly Hills community continue to thrive. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Niemer. I'd like to have Ms. Laura Guerrero. Ms. Laura Guerrero is coming forward.
Hello, I'm pretty nervous. 3 minutes is a blink in time, but right now it feels like an eternity. I believe it is very important to allow kids to attend school in their community. We at Beverly Hills are part of downtown Concord's community. I've been asked, well, what's wrong with Kannapolis? And the answer is nothing. My sister-in-law lives there with her family, and she teaches in our school system. She would be unhappy if her homeschool was moved to Concord. It's about where we live. My village of people, you know, we need a village to raise these kids. My village is in Concord. It is not absurd to expect your children to attend school in your community. It's normal. Our downtown City of Concord area is made up of older homes in older neighborhoods, for the most part. We are not made up of large subdivisions. We don't need new schools with big atriums and gas lanterns lining the hall. We would be happy to keep our little school and continue to have kids walk to school or ride their bikes. If they have to move out for a year to make that happen, so be it. At the end of the day, our kids can continue going to school in our community. I grew up near a city with schools much older than ours, and they are still being used. It's a choice to maintain older neighborhood schools. Please make that choice here in Concord. Please choose scenario A. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Guerrero. Ms. May Scott. Ms. May Scott.
I believe closing Beverly Hills School is absolutely absurd. One claim is that Beverly Hills neighborhood has no capacity or room to grow. Beverly Hills and the elementary school does not need more growth. We like being a stable and sound neighborhood. Homeowners bought their houses in our neighborhood because Beverly Hills has an outstanding reputation. We are a close-knit community that watch over each other. We have the type of neighborhood where people walk on tree-lined streets. We are a virtually no-crime neighborhood. Our children are safe, and our elderly people are safe, which cannot be said for bigger neighborhoods. Closing Beverly Hills School will greatly impact our neighborhood. The property values will be affected. Our neighborhood population could reduce because people buy into our neighborhood for our small school. Our community could become potentially less favorable. We were told by the school board Beverly Hills could become a pre-K program, but then was told by members of the board that they did not want to be part of a daycare system. We were also told the school could be used as an alternative school. I am strongly opposed to this idea. Our neighborhood would be exposed to situations that we as a neighborhood do not want around us. We were also told that the building could be used as offices for the school system. Wouldn't the upfitting of the school for those purposes cost more than the repairs of $10 million to keep our school? Why is it the school board can spend gross amounts of money, millions of dollars, on schools that can't be filled? You want the new Royal Oaks school filled so that more funding can be obtained to build more schools that will also be a gross amount of spending. I will close this by saying your political agenda to fill seats at Royal Oaks will impact my neighborhood and the children of the neighborhood. Are you willing to endanger the future of the kids at Beverly Hills School and the small neighborhood of Beverly Hills? Choosing scenario A should be the only option. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Scott. Ms. Tess Ward.
Hello, my name is Tess Ward. I'm a mother of 3, and I live in historic downtown Concord. 2 of my children go to Coulter Webb, and my youngest will be going there in 2 years. I believe if we have a goal in mind, we can find solutions to any problem. With that said, the goal the school board must have is to protect Beverly Hills, Coulter Webb, and R. Brown McAllister. I know the arguments against the goal and the perceived obstacles in the way, but I wonder if you truly understand what an assault you would be committing on the students, the parents, the homeowners, and Concord as a whole if you simply shut down and ship off Beverly Hills and then combine Coulter Webb and R. Brown into a faceless 900-plus student facility. While these schools are not perfect and certainly not brand new, they are hardly decrepit, as some of the staff has insultingly and incorrectly stated. We moved to Concord for the historic district. My home is 100 years old and listed on the National Historic Register and is just around the corner from Coulter Webb. I know what it is to maintain and invest in these buildings. It has its drawbacks, but those pale in comparison to the rewards. I'm teaching my children to invest in something with history and how to maintain things. I'm showing them anything worth having takes work and that we should be proud of the work that people put in before us. I'm teaching them not to be wasteful and with our resources by simply tearing things down and filling landfills. We are being responsible citizens, preserving our past while making a positive and lasting impact on the future. These schools are the hearts of our neighborhoods, the hearts. Not only are they excellent schools that are doing extremely well, but our homes, our backyards, our daily lives are built around these buildings. These schools are why people are moving here and making life-altering decisions to stay here, investing everything we have in these neighborhoods. As a former student of Coulter Webb, I know what it means to have the foundation of a neighborhood school. I still remember my teachers by name because I had a relationship with them. And that's one you don't get in future educational institutions because they become too large. Elementary school sets the foundation for each student's educational future. If a child doesn't learn to read by the 3rd grade and fails his end of grade test, those numbers are used to plan for future jails. All of these schools are Title I schools. I'm not only speaking for my children, I'm speaking for the parents who couldn't come to this meeting tonight because they couldn't take time off work or they didn't even have the luxury of knowing about this because they have too much on their plates already. Children that come from economically disadvantaged homes are already starting school with a vocabulary deficit of 30 million words less than their more privileged counterparts. These students deserve smaller classroom sizes. They deserve personal relationships with the staff and an environment to get that extra boost that they need to survive. What they do not deserve is to become a faceless statistic shoved into a shiny new warehouse. You have been given a gift in these schools. They are the foundation of Concord. In a world where community is dissolving before our eyes and fear is on the rise, we have the antidote. These schools are what people are striving for elsewhere. We have a community. And by taking away these schools in any fashion, you are dismantling that community and you are doing harm. You are doing harm to the students, harm to the families, harm to the neighbors, harm to the businesses, and harm to the entire community. Tearing down these schools and building new ones is not fiscally responsible. It will cost more than renovations and more in busing. It is not educationally responsible. Studies have shown the importance of smaller neighborhood schools, and it's not ethically responsible as you are tearing apart the fabric of our communities and lives. Thank you for your time. I hope you will adjust your goals to do what it takes to protect these gems in Cabarrus County's educational crown. Thank you.
Mr. Marshall Ward.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Marshall Ward, and my wife, Tess, is a tough act to follow. But I'd like to thank you for creating this opportunity for all of us to gather here and talk to you about this really important issue facing both the Beverly Hills elementary its students, its families, its neighbors, and possibly setting a precedent for other neighborhood schools in Cabarrus County. I'm a father of 3. I'm also a volunteer coach in this community. I coach kids at Beverly Hills, at Fur, at Brown McAllister, all over the city. So I really care about these issues. To me, building a new school, demolishing an old school, purchasing a new fleet of buses, and staffing those buses is substantially more expensive than deferred maintenance cost of an existing school. And if we're going to spend all that money trying to build this school, it just seems almost grossly negligent now that we can't staff or fill the school. And so I'm really concerned about that. I'm also really unhappy with and I find it vulgar, the number of scenarios that were presented to this committee. The committee didn't develop these scenarios, by my understanding. They were presented these scenarios, and they had to ask for a scenario to have Beverly Hills open. I find that very offensive. I believe that neighborhood schools are vital and extremely attractive assets to the community. I moved into my neighborhood because of the neighborhood school. I am one of those people. Schools are often the hearts of the community. Neighborhood schools, they add to an entire community's culture as well as value. There's walkability factors that are involved here in real estate. Real estate executives and real estate people will tell you that a walkability score, from a company such as WalkScore, can have a direct impact on a home's value. WalkScore is done on a scale from 0 to 100. And just as an example, the North Union Historic District has a walkability score of a 79. Each WalkScore point is worth about $3,000 in that property's value. And if you take away Coltrane Webb Elementary just out of the Historic District as an example, it would lower the WalkScore by 10 points. That's about $30,000 per home. There's 200 homes in the Historic District of North Union. 200 homes times $30,000 per home. That's $6 million in lost taxable assessed revenue for those homes. How many homes are there in Beverly Hills? 400? Close to 500? That's something I'm really concerned about. Also, I've heard the positions from the school administration to close Beverly Hills because of cost, but I still haven't seen the total cost of various scenarios contrasted against the cost of keeping the school open. I personally have a few questions about this scenario. First, how are the county and school board calculated for the potential loss in tax revenue if Beverly Hills Elementary and the other neighborhood schools are closed? Second, why was scenario 12 eliminated? Third, we do not yet know the demand level for the fine arts program at Royal Oaks, so should we staff and redistrict to fill it before we know the demand for it? The program will be unlike any other in the district. We don't know yet if 500 kids from around the county want to go there to this fine arts program, or if only 50 kids want to go there. If 500 kids want to go there from around the district, then that's fine. We probably won't need to redistrict Beverly Hills in the first place. You, the school board, have an incredible responsibility to our community, and I know that your decisions have to weigh on you personally to some degree. The community is here tonight because we care and we're nervous. We're nervous about the future of our school and all the neighborhood schools in our growing small city. In my opinion, it's important that we don't lose sight of our identity, our heart, as we move forward. And that's what we want to do, is move Concord forward.
Thank you, Mr. Ward. Ms. Dana Spardella.
Hello, my name is Dana Spardella, and I'm a teacher at Royal Oaks Elementary School. The staff at Royal Oaks Elementary School is very excited to have the opportunity to have a fresh start for our scholars and our families as we rebuild the Royal Oak School community. We have an amazing leadership team, which has allowed us to build the groundwork for our new fine arts program. This strong foundation leads us to believe that this will be what our school community needs to help our scholars reach their full potential. We have already seen an increase in student engagement and a sense of self-confidence that we have not previously seen in our students. As you consider the options before you, we ask to keep the best interest of our students in the forefront of your minds. We are a close-knit school family, and our students and staff truly care for one another. The students that have remained with us throughout the many changes we have endured these past 2 years are looking forward to attending classes in the new facility next school year. We would like a plan that is least disruptive for all CCS students. Although the group of students that could potentially move to Irvin in several scenarios does not have a very large number of Royal Oak students, they are part of our school family and have waited patiently for the new school to open. We would like the new boundary to include these students. While we are grateful for the new school, it is the staff, students, and parents that make Royal Oak special, not the building itself. We have already had an overwhelmingly positive response to our arts program so far, and we want to make that a program available to as many students throughout the county as possible. We have no doubt that the interest in the program will continue to grow in the coming years. We want our students to begin their adventure in our new school on a positive note. They deserve that. Our school families have endured many changes and overcome obstacles during the past 2 years, and the sacrifices they have made are worthy of your consideration. We are ready to create a community, not serve as a swing site location while rebuilding across the county. We are grateful to Charles E. Boger Elementary School and thankful for their hospitality. Prior to our arrival, they endured a change in their population with the opening of the new Odell. They have welcomed our population and now once again will undergo changes as we leave. In consideration of the Boger community, we ask that they be left intact and allow them the opportunity to reestablish their identity. Our new arts-infused, engaging curriculum has opened doors to a deeper understanding of all core content area, including literacy, math, science, and social studies. We are ready to share this new rigorous, innovative experience with any children and families who are committed to making Royal Oaks their school. We will welcome them with open arms and a promise to walk alongside them throughout the remainder of their elementary educational journey. We appreciate the countless hours that Dr. Louder and the committee members have put into the process of selecting the redistricting scenario that minimizes disruption and maximizes financial responsibility. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cardella. Ms. Karen Haslick.
I am the mother of 3, 2 of which are currently in school in Cabarrus County Schools, one of which who will not be in school until the year 2020. I'm a proud resident of Concord. I graduated from Concord High School. I moved away to attend college and start my career, and was away for nearly 15 years. My husband and I chose to move back to Concord in 2015, almost entirely because of our perception of the quality of schools in Cabarrus County. Whether you realize it or not, the Board of Education appears to be on a path to dismantle our neighborhoods in downtown Concord. We consider the closing of Beverly Hills, along with the 2 other neighborhood schools, to be a direct assault on our neighborhoods. Dr. Louder called our downtown schools decrepit at the information session on October 16th at Beverly Hills. Because of their research and data points, this board wants to take away our smaller, desirable neighborhood schools because they are, quote, fiscally irresponsible, end quote. You argue that they must be closed to build new schools for the growth of our county. Yet the county has ignored many basic maintenance requests for these 3 elementary schools for many years. There's a county just to our north with a school board that would literally trip over themselves to see any growth in their county's population. They have to face the choice to close schools because they are literally losing residents. Why would you ever propose to close functioning, viable school buildings when our population in Cabarrus County is, in your words, exploding? Growth is not happening in 28025 as quickly as what is being seen in 28027. Therefore, we don't seem to matter. Our tight-knit, diverse, thriving communities are slated to lose their foundation, one of the most stabilizing and attractive pieces of our neighborhoods, our desirable neighborhood elementary schools. Several families, including mine, have moved back to Concord or are moving here from other areas of North Carolina and around the country to live near these schools. Our schools are surrounded by communities. From my kitchen window, I can see my children playing on the playground at recess. I know every teacher, administrator, bus driver, crossing guard, and staff member because we walk to and from school every single day. I see them and they see me. Our school, our community, is a safer place and a better place because of our close proximity. What happens if your current plans come into fruition? An abandoned building, an alternative school? It's decrepit for all our children there now and unacceptable according to this board, but the at-risk children can come on in. How is this helpful to all the children in Cabarrus County? I ask that you reconsider choosing scenario A. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hanslick. Ms. Nancy Freeze-Faggart.
Hello, my name is Nancy Freeze-Faggart, and I support scenario A. My father was Joe Freeze. He served concurrently as the first principal and the 6th grade teacher at Beverly Hills School for 11 years. After 40 years in education, Daddy retired as superintendent of Cabarrus County Schools. He played a role in the integration of the school system, facing many tough decisions. When asked what he did for a living, he answered, "I'm in education." My father was fair and cared deeply about the well-being of the children. When addressing problems and issues, it all boiled down to what is best for the children. He also welcomed discussion. He was eager to listen, evaluate, and to discuss points of contention. I asked myself, what would Daddy say about the redistricting of the school lines, the closing of Beverly Hills, and the busing of the children out of the neighborhood? My gut says he would consider it flawed judgment to bus Concord children to Kannapolis. However, he would listen to discussion before making a final decision, so I decided I would listen too. I attended some of the information sessions school personnel conducted regarding the new boundary for Royal Oaks Elementary School and the busing that would be involved. I have not heard any facts that change my mind about the value of neighborhood schools. When I first heard of the 10-year plan to close Beverly Hills School, it was laughable. I dismissed its closing because of the merit of our neighborhood school, the anchor of our community. Beverly Hills is a vibrant community with lots of involvement, such as a neighborhood book club, movie night in the park, and socials. It's a place where family values and family structure provide care and stability for children. It's an appeal of old Concord that I hope we do not lose in our growth. Having a neighborhood school perpetuates family values and contributes to a feeling of community. Daddy valued the children as individuals and affirmed them. He helped them identify their gifts and cultivate their interest. He watched with great satisfaction as the students grew into adulthood and became productive members of society, and the students remember his influence on their lives. He fostered feelings of success and confidence through the neighborhood school known as Beverly Hills. Please reconsider the value of neighborhood schools. They build a sense of community and belonging. They make for a smooth, socially adaptable environment for parents to volunteer at the school. PTOs are stronger. Parental participation is greater the closer parents are to the school. I love to hear the children laughing and playing in the playground from my house on Palisade Drive. I welcome any common ground we can find for providing the choice of neighborhood schools in the city of Concord. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Faggart. Ms. Laura Schuman.
Okay. Good evening. I want to thank the school board for this opportunity to come and speak with you this evening. I'm a parent, and I'm the product of public education here in the state of North Carolina, and also the child of public school teachers. So I very much appreciate the work that the school board does, and I have faith that this board does put the heightened emphasis on the needs of our children and on the needs of our communities, because that's really where our focus needs to be, the children and the community fabric that supports them. So that being said, I think I speak for everybody that, we're very excited about the new Royal Oaks Elementary School because it will be a great attribute for the children of the Royal Oaks District as well as the Royal Oaks community. We think all children and all communities deserve access to great facilities. Now, I do understand there's been some discussion this evening about some decisions that were made regarding size and cost and that sort of thing. But we also understand, that ship has sailed. It's time now for Cabarrus County as a whole to embrace this and to figure out the best way to make sense of the new Royal Oaks Elementary School. And for that, everyone needs to have a little bit of skin in this game, just a little bit. This really shouldn't be put squarely on the backs of one school, one community, and one group of students. So as I was looking through the different scenarios, I couldn't help but notice that there was one proposal that keeps Beverly Hills open, and 3 that close it. The other thing I could not help but notice is that the 3 that close Beverly Hills have no impact to the Boger district at all, if I'm reading the maps correctly. I apologize, I'm not a good map reader. But I can't help but ask myself why that is the case. I understand the desire to try to minimize the impact of redistricting, but I kind of feel like that's divisive. All that's really doing is driving a wedge between two communities that otherwise don't have any issues with one another, and it's really creating a chasm, if you will, and instead of a spirit of cooperation and support that we need and that we should foster within our greater community. And we got to ask ourselves, what kind of example are we setting for our children? So I would like for all of us to keep this in mind. You've heard a lot of residents speak today on behalf of the Beverly Hills community and about how it's unique. It's a neighborhood school with a vibrant neighborhood around it. And over the last 10 years, there's been an evolution in this community's demographics. The community is very transformative. It's on the verge of a rebirth, and it's strategically located with downtown and the hospital. And I really think it's in our county's best interest to support economic viability in this part of Concord instead of tearing it down. Please know that everyone can win. It doesn't have to be mutually exclusive. All communities can better from it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Schuman. Ms. Kirby Bullard.
Hello, my name is Kirby Bullard, and I've lived in the Wood Creek neighborhood for almost 23 years. All 3 of my children attended Beverly Hills, with the last one finishing in 2003. Obviously, it's been quite a while since I had a child at that school, but I have plenty of neighbors who still have children at that school, and I have new neighbors who moved to our neighborhood specifically so that their child can attend Beverly Hills. As others have spoken about, research has shown that large institutions are not beneficial for academic achievement, so it doesn't make sense to close Beverly Hills. I also have a concern for the real estate values of the homes people have purchased in order for their children to attend Beverly Hills. It's obvious that the population is growing faster in the western part of the county, but it's not a good practice to do something that's going to stymie the growth in this side of the county. As you know, Beverly Hills feeds into Concord Middle and Concord High, schools with rich traditions that my children attended. But for these schools to remain vibrant, they need a diversity of people that is best enhanced with a neighborhood school like Beverly Hills. I'm afraid that by closing Beverly Hills, you will lose some of these students to alternative schools. Also, as our school system continues to grow, I fear this decision will appear short-sighted as we continually grapple with the need for more space. I've had people ask me why it would really matter if Beverly Hills was closed. Progress marches on, right? Certainly the core of a good school involves the teachers and the principal, but I contend that the kids that attend and the families they represent are also part of that mix. When we moved to Concord, my middle son Owen started first grade. Dee Boss was in his class, and they followed each other all through high school. When Dee was a senior basketball player at Mississippi State, we drove to Columbia, South Carolina, to watch him and his team play against the University of South Carolina. After the game, all the Concord folks gathered together to see Dee before the team headed back to Starkville. There were over 50 people there. I think a small neighborhood school fosters that kind of caring and love, and we need more of that, not less. I know money is tight, and these are hard decisions you all have to make. But think of the future Owens and the future Dees and the experience they can have in those early grades that will be beneficial to both children. Don't sacrifice this side of the county because our growth is not like it is on the other side. Frankly, we're landlocked over here, but we still have much to offer and much to provide the children that live near the school who will blossom as part of the Beverly Hills family. I know the trend is bigger is better, but I ask you to buck the trend. Think outside the box and say, we're going to make the kids at Beverly Hills a priority and help them and their teachers continue in this loving environment. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bullard. Ms. Leslie Cauble. Corey.
Chairman and members of the board, my name is Corey Cauble, and I have been privileged to be the STEM lab teacher at Beverly Hills STEM Elementary for the last year and a half. Also, to put a face with the discussion, I am one of the teachers that would be displaced if Beverly Hills STEM is consolidated. As a member of the STEM team at Beverly Hills, I believe very strongly in a STEM education for our students and the opportunity that a background in STEM will offer our students as they enter the working world in the years to come. Last year, after spending the day observing at a construction company, I was shocked by the amount of STEM involved in what most of us consider a blue-collar job. I was also inspired to develop a program that would begin to teach our students how to use many of the STEM tools that are currently being used in today's workplace and connect our students with how professionals use these tools in their everyday job. To support this program, the STEM team and I applied for a Jimmy Johnson Foundation Champions Grant. This grant would help us purchase the technology and STEM equipment that we would need to support our initiative. On October 9th, Beverly Hills STEM Elementary was one of only 13 schools nationwide to receive the Jimmy Johnson Foundation Champions Grant. I have heard many concerned parents asking what will happen to the grant if Beverly Hills is closed at the end of the school year. And in fact, Dr. Louder can tell you that was my first question to him when he proposed what could happen to Beverly Hills. The sad truth is that we may not be able to keep this grant that we worked so hard for. This $44,000 grant isn't just a free gift to purchase nifty gadgets that can easily be transferred to another school if we close. It's a year-long committed partnership between the Jimmy Johnson Foundation and Beverly Hills STEM. It's an investment in a curriculum and a unique program that the foundation believed in so much that they invited us to join with them. There are many requirements that go along with the grant, like monthly reporting, progress monitoring, and assessments that we would be unable to fulfill if we close at the end of the year. So, in essence, voting to close our school also means denying us this partnership opportunity we have worked so hard for and ending a STEM program that would provide many of our students a chance at a better paying job in STEM after graduation. I hope you will take this into consideration when deliberating your decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cauble. Ms. Claudine Chalfant, excuse me.
Hi, my name's Chris Chalfant, and I'm speaking on behalf of my sister, Claudine Chalfant. Good evening. My name's Claudine Chalfant. I'm a proud parent of Beverly Hills STEM Bulldog as well as an alumna. Thanks for having me speak in favor of option A. Redistricting is clearly an emotional decision that affects all of us, the parents, the teachers, the students, the faculty, even custodial and cafeteria staff who are on the brink of losing their jobs, and even you, the school board members, who must live with the consequences of the actions that are taken. Making a decision about redistricting takes careful evaluation, and it even takes an impact study. of closing a school, which leads me to quote a North Carolina General Assembly statute created to keep our students competitive in today's educational landscape. Section 115C 72A1 mandates a thorough study evaluating how closing a school affects the three elements of welfare on students, inconvenience on families, and hardship on families. These three elements are not included in the Fanning-Howey report of 2014. That report focused on the conditions of facilities, not on welfare, not on inconvenience, and not on hardship. However, if there exists such a study of tangible statistics, we parents and students have a great interest in examining it. A personal example of detrimental hardship resonates in my own son, a seven-year-old second grader at Beverly Hills STEM who loves science and math and thrives when using charts, coins, and numbers to learn. In contrast, Royal Oaks fine arts educators infuse music and dance into daily lessons. Undoubtedly, there will be some students who flourish as they complete dance moves on Royal Oak's shiny new floors. However, other students, such as my son, will freeze and will be confined to a substandard educational experience when compared to STEM, which is what he signed up for. Another part of the state-mandated study focuses on welfare. The welfare of each Beverly Hills student hinges on academic growth and success. Moving our students to Royal Oaks is a recipe for failure. The evidence from the latest North Carolina school report card rates Beverly Hills as a D, and the same title belonged to Royal Oaks before it closed for renovations in 2015, also a D. School board members, I implore you to reason that combining two low-performing schools will lead to the consequential outcome of decreased learning capacity and creating an unattractive school district. In closing, I would like to reference an Independent Tribune article from April 2016 that quoted Dr. Chris Lauder, who proudly said, quote, "I went to Royal Oaks as a student, and it's especially nice to be able to replace a school that I attended in 1975. Dr. Lauder, the pride you feel for Royal Oaks is very passionately matched or potentially exceeded by all of us here at Beverly Hills, from our parents and our students. Please don't gamble with our children's learning abilities in an effort to fulfill a dream of leaving an impression on your childhood community. Board members, please allow our children to finish elementary school at Beverly Hills. Closing the school now creates a dire hardship and an insurmountable inconvenience that negatively impacts the welfare of students, as a study mandated by state law would easily show."
Thank you, Ms. Chalfant. Mr. Miller Hartzell.
Don't worry, you're not going to have to watch that clock count down very far. I'm a man of few words. This is not going to be an exception. Several years ago, when my wife and I moved to Concord, we deliberated and just over and over where were we going to move, what area of Concord, and we chose Beverly Hills because of the schools. My wife about drove me crazy, but my daughter, she has thrived at the school. There's a real sense of community, like a family. And the best thing for our children is for scenario A, and I think I speak for everyone in the community. The thing to do is make Royal Oaks a swing school, while, if need be, Beverly Hills is worked on, updated, whatnot. So, I like old cars. I like old houses. I like everything that makes Concord, Concord. I like this old school. And I feel like closing it would be a complete waste of a wonderful thing. That's all I got. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Miller, Mr. Hartzell. I want to thank each of you for coming out tonight, and we really appreciate, and we heard all of your comments. Ms. Renee Mull has been tirelessly typing, and I think she's tried to capture all of the information that you provided to us tonight, and we will continue to take it to heart. Thank you. And board members will now need to move on to our other business. Is there a motion to close the public hearing on the Royal Oaks boundaries?
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
All right, Ms. Carpenter makes the motion, and Mr. Harrison seconds that. All in favor of closing the hearing on, public hearing on Royal Oaks, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. All right, that motion carries 5-0. And now we're moving into our items on the consent agenda. Thank you all again. You're more than welcome to stay to listen to all the other exciting things we have. It's a full night.
Do you want to take a recess so we can, while they're clearing out?
Yeah.
It's going to be too busy out here.
You want to wait? Yeah.
10 minutes.
All right. You want to start now, or you want to wait for them to leave? Good evening. We've come back from our recess, and we're now beginning our normal agenda items. We've had our public hearing on the Royal Oaks boundary, and we've closed that hearing for public input, and now we're moving forward. Our first item on the agenda is the budget amendments, and Ms. Klutz is at the podium to review that with us.
Thank you. Good evening, board members. I have 3 budget amendments for you this afternoon. We'll start with the state fund. This displayed on your screen. You'll see we had some additional money for CTE credentials for tuition programs. We also got some additional funding for E-rate, WAN, Wi-Fi from the state. We were expecting those dollars. And then the final one on the state is where the state allocated the funds for the principal bonuses. In addition, they also did the retro payments for the 3rd grade teachers that were disqualified last year, and they amended that to make them eligible this year. So that's I don't have that, but if you would have asked me yesterday, I could have pulled it up for you. I can get it and send it to you. There weren't many, maybe 3 to 5, something like that. Yes, 3 to 5, something like that. It's not many. So we'll go on to the federal budget amendment. We have the difference between a planning allotment and an actual allotment. You can see that it's very little there on the first one. The second one is our 103. That is our federal Title II. Yeah, that actual description needs to be adjusted. That is Title II and not Title III. And we had a significant change in the planning versus actual allotment that you can see there, obviously to the good of us. And then we had a minor reclass in Title I. So the third one is Title I? The third one is Title I. Oh, my goodness. Thank you. I'll get that. We got copy and paste happy, apparently. Thank you. We'll fix that.
And has that staff development? Has that staff development already been committed and
For
is that, can we use that in the future, or has been used already in the past?
which one are you referring?
Staff development.
The workshop expenses on 336, 6600. Those have not been, well, partially, I would say. That's in Glenda Jones area. We would partially, some of those funds were committed, and then when they got the additional funds, that opened it up for more staff development
So the bulk of these amounts are going to future staff development?
The ones that are allocated in the 6600, 103 is staff development. The computer equipment obviously is not.
Okay, the 60,000.
And substitute pay the substitute pay would be for staff development. So we'll move on to the final budget amendment, which is our capital outlay. This budget amendment was necessary because we made the approval last month to go ahead with the change order of the architect for the Harrisburg area elementary school. So we're making a temporary budget amendment to move those funds from engineering to architect because we asked the county for those additional funds today. And they should be, hopefully they'll be approved in their business session in 2 weeks. And then so we'll make this temporary change back.
All right, so then what we'll see is the influx of money from the county, and then you'll have us an actual reversal.
Correct.
In next month's meeting.
Correct.
Okay.
It was timing. We had to do the budget amendment to be able to issue the change order.
Right. Ms. Furtenbaugh?
I just have a question. What was this engineering money for? The roadways, or what was it for?
No, it was the additional, so. oh,
No,
the
no, I mean the engineering part.
It was just the original budget, for the engineering for the school. Can you
Is that
elaborate on that?
what the architects are working on with the design and engineering? Because that shouldn't be an additional fee, right?
No, this is the engineering that we would use for the testing and that sort of thing once we go to construction, so we may not need it. That's why we could pull it now and put it back in before construction begins.
Okay, so we don't need that money just yet,
Not at this
Not
point in time.
yet.
We will need it before the end of the project, obviously.
like in another month or something?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thanks.
Right. Okay. And that's all the budget amendments.
All right. Any more questions for Ms. Klutz? Board members, we probably need to put it on the action agenda so we can see the changes on the Title 3s to 2 and 3s to 1.
Yes,
And the ESLs go away, right?
correct.
All right. Seeing no questions, let's move on to our next item. And that is 5.02, and Ms. Burns is coming forward. The first policy is 3230, and the second policy is 3300.
Policy 3230, 733, 7330, sorry, it's late. Copyright compliance, this is recommended and required changes. Adds fair use of copyrighted materials in the preparation of multimedia projects to the list of topics on which students and employees must be trained. This is recommended. And updates a policy title in the list of cross-references. And this is required if it's consistent with our policy title and the Policy Committee recommended changes as written. Policy 3300, school calendar and time for learning. This is a required and strongly recommended change. Updates the title of the State Personnel Commission in Section D. This is required. Modifies paragraph D10 to better reflect statutory language. Strongly recommended. Corrects the name of Constitution Day and Citizenship Day in paragraph D11. These are required. And revises the paragraph to better reflect statutory requirements, strongly recommended. Adds new calendar requirement at paragraph D12, designating the month of November as Veterans History Awareness Month. This is required. And updates the legal references. This is recommended.
Okay, the Veterans History Month, when is that effective now? So what are we doing for that? I guess that's a Dr. Hill question.
Pardon? Yeah, it varies by school. Thank you.
Give us an overview or give me an idea what that means?
I really don't. I'm just doing the policy changes. Yeah, sure, thank you.
The various programs vary by school, but our curriculum department is working to put this piece of legislation into our curriculum maps so our teachers can follow it and it'd be available for all of our schools.
So would DPI have something that they send down that we have to cover? No?
They
It's
have.
up to us to determine what that is?
Yeah. So they provide some resources through a listserv that they send out once a month, but there is no curriculum. We just create that.
Ms. Burns, I know we're talking about policy here, but is it feasible to take the existing calendar and give us a scenario of how this school calendar and time for learning policy will revise the future calendar?
Change the calendar.
It won't change our school calendar.
It won't change the
No,
calendar?
No. This is just designating November as Veterans Awareness Month.
I'm thinking of the wording on the state employees' time off.
Just a moment.
Am I missing?
So Veterans Day is already a required holiday for both students and staff, so this doesn't change the actual calendar. It just designates the month of November as Veteran Awareness Month. And then as Dr. Hill indicated, that's something that they'll be putting into the curriculum maps going forward to make sure that all of our staff are putting something in place. And it's not as sporadic as it has been.
So it has more of a curricular impact than a personnel time off. And, okay.
Right, so we already have the time off. It's,
Right. Okay.
Yeah, it's holiday.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'd recommend these for consent agenda.
Thank you. I was lost in trying to get this moved. All right. Is there agreement, consent agenda? All right, so all these are consent. That takes us to policy on 5.03. Ms. Burns is going to be presenting to us 4400, and there seems to be some mismatches going on with that one.
Yes, and I apologize for that. When the board approved the first read October 2nd, it was with a change that Ms. Furtenbaugh had requested be put in there. And so the next week, when the document was sent to board docs, I had actually added that language to a previous version. So your first read business, it was not stated the way it should have been stated. What is in board docs today is what the board had asked me to have together for them on October 9th. So, Mr. Schwartz, I'm not sure if you wanted to address that.
Yes, let me see if I can clarify this a little bit. Apparently what you approved at the work session meeting on October 2nd didn't get into the version that was approved for first reading at the business meeting on October 9. So what's now in board docs as of this afternoon, the version of 4400 that's in board docs has been changed. And if you can pull that up, I can walk you through the change there. And then I've got one other change that I'm going to suggest in addition to that. So if you can pull up 4400.
B3.
The change that was made was at B3, and what's in blue apparently was suggested by Ms. Furtenbaugh at the business meeting on October 2nd. The other changes were made as part of what went through policy committee in B3. And then moving forward, let me get you to go to the very end. You'll see one change in G. Students with excused absences due to documented chronic health problems, instead of will be exempted, it's may be exempted from this policy. That was made in policy committee. And then there was a change made in the legal references. And Sue, I can't tell, it looks like this change is a little bit different in the legal reference, but the legal reference we can get straightened out. What was added was a reference to 16 North Carolina Administrative Code 6E 0101 and 0104, in addition to 0102 and 3. So it should say now 0101 hyphen 0104 instead of comma.
I think the hyphen is part of the strike through of the two.
Okay,
You
but it
can't
looks like
see
a
the
comma
hyphen.
was added.
Oh, okay. Yes,
Okay.
I apologize.
It's hard to say, I can't tell
Yeah,
what it is by looking
yeah.
at this, but, so 0104, I think the intent was to add that, and if that's the case, then I would suggest that we add some language in section E. I think I can explain this quickly so that it'll be not at all controversial. What 0104 says in the administrative code provision that's cited there, that's 16 North Carolina Administrative Code 6E0104, deals with involuntary suspensions, and it's just one sentence. What the state regulation says is that the absence of a student which results from the suspension or expulsion of that student for misconduct pursuant to the provisions of GS 115C 391, which is a reference to the old disciplinary code statutes, shall not be used for a compulsory attendance violation action. We don't have that explicitly stated in this policy. And what I would suggest is if you'll go to section E, excessive absences, if you go to the second paragraph, beginning with the principal, okay, it says the principal will notify parents and take all of the steps required by the compulsory attendance law, GS 115C 378, for excessive absences. I would suggest adding this sentence at this point, absences resulting from suspension or expulsion from school shall not be used for a compulsory attendance violation. And that simply puts the provision of the regulation into the policy at that point, and then it would continue to say students may not be suspended for truancy. Right, right. We can't very well kick them out of school and then prosecute them for not coming to school.
Mr. Schwartz, would you please repeat that one time?
Yes, and I'll give you the language.
Go back to first read.
In between, in the second paragraph of E, in between the two sentences in that paragraph, we would add the following paragraph, or I would suggest adding the following. Absences resulting from suspension or expulsion from school shall not be used for a compulsory attendance violation.
Okay. Mr. Schwartz, can you send us that update and to Sue tomorrow in writing?
Sure.
In printed, because we should have that before the meeting.
Right, yeah.
If you have advice like that.
Yep. We just found this mess up this afternoon.
Yeah, in that case, it should at least go back to first read. It wouldn't be a second read item anymore.
Pardon me?
It shouldn't be a second read item anymore. I'd like to see it go back to first read and get through the process.
It can be, it can be. It's the board's discretion, whatever you want to do.
I'm sorry, I would suggest that, Rob, we go ahead with it, as long as we get it tomorrow, where we can see it. It's just a one sentence change. So that's not, the gist of it is there. He's giving us a clarification. So.
I still think we should put it at a first read and allow public input on it.
Well, we can put this on the action agenda. Okay, better yet, how many board members feel like it needs to be on the first read?
Doesn't matter to me. I'm good with second.
All right.
Just
So-
action. If you put it on action.
Then that means we get to vote on it next week.
Yeah.
I mean, November the 20th. All right, are we good with action agenda?
Yeah.
All right, we'll put it on the action.
Can I just ask if the sentence, students may not be suspended for truancy, should that be shall? To stay in what we was, the previous sentence was.
Mr. Harrison, that was one of the changes that was brought to the policy committee, asking that the will be taken out and turned into may, that would give it more discretion for the principal.
All right, so that's an action agenda item, and it will still be on second read, but we should get a refresh tomorrow. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
Correctly.
All right, that takes us to 5.04, and Mr. Matthew Fales coming forward to talk about these school improvement plans. And there's a lot of them, as usual.
So we will begin reading them now. And, as we do every year, you have copies of the school improvement plans for consideration for approval. And I just want to take a moment to thank all of the schools and their school improvement teams and other teams who worked to complete the school improvement plans. They did a great job. Do you have any questions?
Board members, I'll open it up to you.
I just
Mr.
haven't had
Walter?
time to review them all yet. Can we wait 2 more weeks before approving?
Well, yeah, it's today. I'm just bringing it for conversation, and then approval the next time we meet is fine.
Can you give us a thumbnail sketch of what major areas were most frequently updated in the various plans, or?
Yeah, so I would say that almost every plan has at least one academic goal and strategy attached to that goal. Most have 2. All of our school improvement plans have approximately 3 goals with 3 strategies attached to them. And as I've mentioned, primarily they focus on an academic component or 2 academic components, and then there's usually another primarily revolving around things like PBIS, positive behavior intervention support, or MTSS, a multi, I may not remember those, tiered system of support, which is also an academic focus. PBIS is a component of MTSS, and that's disciplinary, but MTSS encompasses the full gambit of discipline, attendance, and academics.
What should we look for? I mean, with such a massive body of stuff. With such a massive body of stuff every year, what should we look for this year to give you constructive feedback?
I would suggest with your backgrounds that you just look for logic. If things make sense, you should be familiar with most everything as you read through it in terms of the strategies. I don't think you're going to be, you're going to read anything that really surprises you from what your knowledge is of the county and the things that you've heard from different schools and from the leaders in the county. So I would just use your logic and just look for things that make sense.
What about the SIT plans for the startup schools? Will they be a little bit different?
So actually, no, we have not received direction that the starter schools have to have something different. However, the schools...
I mean, they might have some additional elements to them, or because they have extra flexibility.
Correct. And we had heard that there would be, but we have not been given direction to change anything. So you do have two different types of plans, though. You have the typical school improvement plan of the district, and then you have the ones that the low-performing schools must use. Many of our restart schools are those schools, but again, we didn't receive direction that those schools had to do anything different than that was already prescribed.
So our low-performing schools will have some differences in their SIT plans versus everyone else.
Yes, they use a tool called NC Star that they're required to use, and so those plans do look different and follow a different kind of process than the typical school improvement plan does. And you guys are familiar with those, if you remember from last year. It was the same thing for our low-performing schools. Yeah.
All right, so we can look through those. Those would be something to look at if we wanted to see compare plans.
Yes.
Good. All right. Board members, are there any other questions? I believe this is going to be an action agenda, since it looks like we still have some reading to do. At least we have some ideas of what to look for and where to go. Any other questions?
No, I was just going to comment. I like the restart schools format because they can already show things completed or whatnot. It almost seems more what I'll call a project plan, of actions to do. It's just kind of...
Yeah, from the NC Star template.
Yeah.
Ms. Carpenter?
Well, you've done an outstanding job, and all the schools have. I've seen them improve from when we first started to where we are now, and they've all done an outstanding job, and I want to thank all the SIP teams for what they've done and the parents' involvement and what you've done. You've done a great job with it.
Well, thank you, and I'm sure the schools will appreciate hearing that.
Well, and I know how much time, I know with what we've just got through, with the committee time, what we've done with that, and the parents' involvement and the people involved with that. And I do appreciate the parents and the people that take their time to become volunteers and to do that. And I know that looking at the detail that's put into these SIP programs, it takes a lot of time and a lot of stuff to do that. So I want to thank all those people that did that. So thanks a lot.
Thank you.
All right. We'll put it on action agenda, board members. All right. Thank you, Matthew.
Thank you.
All right. Ms. Glenda Jones is coming up to talk about the class size waiver for our district, and we did get a little quick email from the state superintendent of schools today, a little bit about this class waiver.
Okay, so this is not your typical individual class size waiver that you're accustomed to us bringing, but this is actually a district waiver for enhancement classes, which are art, music, PE, and world languages. And we're just bringing this tonight and to ask for the board to approve this on November 20th so that we can send it and meet state deadlines by November 30th. Yes, sir.
What are the financial impacts?
It's not really any financial impact for us doing the waiver. Would have probably been more so if we were not allowed. We had to lobby the state long and hard to be able to get a district-wide waiver for the enhancements. What you have is several schools where they have a 6-day rotation, but they may have 8 classes, and they're trying to fit those 8 second and third grade classes through a 6-day rotation. Sometimes that's for more planning for our content area teachers, and then we had some issues with our dual immersion where they have a waiver automatically in K-3 by the state, but when they moved into health and or to PE, art and music, they might be over 1 or 2 students. And so this waiver will give us protection in that area. I would say the other thing that was real big out of that was if you had EC students who are self-contained for their core content areas, but then they fed back into art, music, or PE, it might put the class over 1 or 2 students.
So what will the waiver actually look like? I mean, because I see what you have written here, but
It is.
will I be signing anything?
No, sir,
or-
you don't even have to sign it. I just have to put the date approved, and Dr. Louder has to sign it. It looks
Okay, so-
exactly like the language you have
So
there.
this language here is going on to a document that Dr. Louder will
It's already on
sign.
the document. I lifted it straight from the document. and put
Can we
it
see that,
in
Glenda?
there.
Can-
Yes.
Scan it for the, not right now, scan it for
I will.
next
I
meeting?
will. I'll send it once we complete it, absolutely.
Okay. Ms. Carpenter?
One of the questions I had, it does say, well, it says health programs, but it also says world languages. Could that include our foreign language, like where we're offering Spanish?
It does include
and
that.
the what's it? Mandarin.
So when we
So
have-
that could include those
Yes,
2
ma'am.
languages also, because we're offering
ma'am.
those in the elementary.
It does.
So that means we could make those larger.
So with our dual immersion classes, those classes automatically are granted the waiver by law, and this is not needed for that. For those students that might be in a dual immersion program that move into art, music, PE, this waiver covers them when they move over into those classes. It also covers world language classes that we have as part of our rotation with music, PE, art, Spanish, or Chinese or Mandarin. It also would cover that.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, Mr. Chair, I have a question. What about the technology classes that are included in the Encore rotations?
I'm sorry, say that again.
The technology with the instructional technology facilitators?
So that's
What
a
about
little.
those classes?
Those
That's
are
not listed here.
That's right. That's not part of that definition, and that's a little bit different. It has a different course code reporting that Matthew and I had worked on. It's kind of like media. So where you have media is not part of this, guidance is not part of that. Those are not grade-giving courses when we're talking at the elementary level. So it's not part of this definition by the state statute, only the state statute.
So are they allowed to go over?
They are.
The class limits?
They are, yes.
Okay. I just, because if the schools are doing a rotation
They
of
are.
all of these subjects, including the library and
They are
the
because they have a
technology center.
non-reporting course
Yeah.
code, so that doesn't pick that up.
Okay. I just want to make sure that schools aren't in a pickle of, we
No,
can let those go over, we can't let these
It's
go
one of
over.
the things we all had.
Right, so we had to work on that. Really good question, but we did work on that.
But this is only good for the 2017, 2018
Right, so next year, then hopefully we're going to have a whole change to class size and we'll not need this,
Okay.
okay?
I wish we could add something about this in legislative agenda that emphasizes the need to fix this again for another year or hopefully permanently, but,
Happy to send you some language.
okay.
Well, I'm sure NCSB is going to give us some guidance next week as well.
And they will.
Essentially what the controversy still is that, remember, the legislature, we're hoping that the legislature in this session would go ahead and account, they've kind of said publicly that they're going to allot special teachers separately. And we were hoping they would do that now, so we have them before teacher allotments. At this point, they have not done that. So it still kind of hangs there as what their decision is on special teachers will determine how short we are with teachers. So until that decision is made, I think the state is kind of on pins and needles of what's that going to look like and how many teachers they're going to allot. So it is wrapped up into that. It's all part of the class size law.
So that means we could go in, we could arrive at the end of the month with a decision that would cause us to lose teachers and.
Well, all indications are that they're not going to do anything until, they don't come back until May. And so right now we'll have done teacher allotments before they come back. So barring something changes, it looks like Mr. Schwartz may have something to add.
Yeah, let me add a couple things there. The General Assembly, when they came back in August, for one of their sessions in August, they did add to one of the technical corrections bills, and there have been about a half dozen of them, they specifically said it is the intent of the General Assembly to create a new funding allotment for enhancement teachers, art, music, PE, et cetera. But their intent, and, 50 cents might get you a cheap cup of coffee, it doesn't provide money. The governor vetoed that bill in part because it didn't actually solve the problem, and the General Assembly overrode that veto. When they just recessed in October, they've now declared their intent to come back in January. So they are going to come back in January. There's no commitment that they'll do anything about this in January, but the possibility exists. And so I wouldn't bet the farm on it, but the possibility does exist that they'll do something in January. If not, it'll be, I think, May 18th is when they come back for the traditional short session. And that's going to put every school system in the state between a rock and a hard place, because you're going to have to make decisions on renewing or non-renewing teacher contracts, by the beginning of June. And you're going to have to make decisions on whether to take a chance on renewing or non-renewing enhancement teachers' contracts by then. You will have already submitted your local budget, so your flexibility on local dollars will be gone. And on top of that, beginning with contracts that go into effect next year is when you're going to have to start offering either 1, 2, or 4-year contracts to your 1-year contract teachers. That provision goes into effect for next year. So every school system is going to have a lot of decisions to make around this whole issue, and not having this funding and class size issue resolved until late May, early June, or even later is a recipe for chaos, but that's where we are right now.
All right, so, board members, are we going to put this on the consent?
I would say yes if we had had the copy. I think we just need to be able to see what it is we're agreeing to.
Action agenda, and you'll have it in the
Yeah.
20th.
Yeah.
Because you don't have to have it until when, December 1st?
November 30th.
November 30th, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's good. So it'll be action agenda. All right, that carries us to the furniture order. Mr. Tim Louder, buying desks and chairs and
Yes, sir.
other wonderful.
We've been working on this order for about 6 months, I guess, and we are using basically a national conglomerate co-op pretty much situation to purchase the product through Meteor Education, who provided us the same furniture at Mount Pleasant Middle School. And this order is for $760,371.68. It does include installation, delivery, and setup for us at the new school. We're looking forward to, by being able to purchase it now, have it available to us in May, and then we're looking forward for the luxury of having 3 months to set up a school instead of 3 weeks. So it's kind of looking pretty good toward that. So.
Questions for Mr. Louder on the furniture order? Carolyn?
And this, just for clarification, you've already told me this is all within the budget
Yes, ma'am.
that we had already set.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I just have a question because of the volume of the sales tax. How does that work now? As far as the county is actually buying the furniture? Or we'll have to
So
wait?
it's about as complicated as it gets.
Yeah.
So the county holds all of our construction dollars. We send our invoices over, and when we send them over for furniture and equipment, we get a credit applied back to that account. So basically, we can reuse that money in that account. Now, on the construction side, we can't. We have to ask you, the board, first, and then we have to ask the commissioners to do that. But because it's furniture and equipment, we can.
All right. What's your wishes?
Just a quick question. I mean,
one more question.
Do we as a staff determine this stuff, or is this done by the?
It's done by committee. We include the staff of the school, and also look at each school. Every room is set out, all the furniture in each classroom is set out and laid out in different configurations, so they have the options of being able to move it around. Almost all this furniture here is very mobile. It allows them to do a multitude of different layouts within the school classroom. And the principal herself and her staff, as well as the finance and everyone, has sat down and met and determined that this was, adequate for the school and appropriate for this age group.
Okay, thank you.
All right, board members? Consent?
Consent.
Okay. Consent agenda, and that takes us to our next item, and that is the revised trail survey. Ms. Shepherd's coming to the podium.
Good evening. Dr. Probst is passing out some information that you will have. Some of this is information that you had the last time we met, but I thought it was worth adding to your packet again. And it just shows the array of services. So the picture really does give a full picture is worth 1,000 words, and I think this absolutely says that. Just shows the array of services. So the last time that we met, our job was to go back to speak with our funder to find out what flexibility we would have in our survey. They did get back to us, and I believe that all the board has seen the revised survey for trail. And you have that in your information as well. So we are looking for next steps from you. Certainly our request is to preserve these valuable services for all of our students so that the programming can continue. In order for the programming to continue, the survey does need to be in place in the schools. And then again, you did see the revised survey.
I have a question right away. Do you need a decision tonight, or can we put this on our action agenda until the 20th? Is that going to be sufficient?
We're looking for your direction, so that'll be fine. That'll be fine.
That will give us time to converse, and then if anybody has any other things, they could converse on the 20th, and we can make a decision.
Absolutely.
All right, board members, I'll open it up to discussion to you, so at least you kind of know the lay of the land. Anyone?
May I
Mr. Harrison?
ask if this new revised survey will initiate any subsequent surveys?
This will be
Is
the
this a one-time survey, or are there subsequent surveys to follow after this?
That's a great question. This is the only survey that would be administered. We do have a pre and post. So what is left is we have our 4 control schools that are still left to be surveyed, that we will survey as soon as we get permission to move forward. And then in May, we will offer the exact same survey. So no subsequent new surveys. It'll be the exact same revised survey.
What is done with the data that was collected midstream in our previous discussions?
Sure. So that data.
Because we now have 2 surveys and they don't match.
Right.
I mean,
So what we've done is the OAH was very flexible in what they were allowing us to do. So we did maintain one question that we can reverse code. The other questions were more about positive youth development, that we're going to be able to glean a lot of information from that. It also helps inform for future projects in terms of social norming, those types of things that really help establish positive decision-making for students. The actual data is owned by Cabarrus Health Alliance, and also Portland University will be the holder of that. Nothing is really going to be done other than what we can analyze with that post-survey, if that makes sense. So only those questions that remain the same, and as you saw, there are a lot of survey questions that did remain the same, and the one question that we can reverse code, which is the abstinence question.
And sorry, I might come back in a moment as soon as I recall what my question was.
Absolutely.
Anyone else have a question? Ms. Carpenter?
And that's what my question is about. Now, I see this survey, I like this survey better than I like the other one. Now, why, and I know that, that you've got another group that is doing that. I know that a lot of times things change, behaviors change, with teenagers, certain issues change, and this other organization may decide, I want to find out about this, and they may decide they want to stick a question about that on this survey, and then all of a sudden this survey goes out again. Now, what I want to be assured of, I want to be assured of, I see this and this is hunky-dory now. I want to be assured of, before that happens, that this board is aware that that's happened, that we have that final say. If a word of this is changed, that we are made aware of this before we approve this. Now, some people may say, and this is the word they always like, don't get in the weeds. Don't make this your business. But this is something that is well, it's important to me, maybe some of the other board members, but we got quite a few calls. Now, somebody said, well, it was only one area, one group that maybe make this important. But I served on the Health Alliance for over 18 years, and I know sometimes when it comes to certain health issues, certain things, some people may kind of get upset. And when it comes to the children, like I say, they can get upset about it. But I would feel more comfortable if I knew for sure I was being assured. But again, in your situation, the Health Alliance, y'all can say, yeah, I'll let you know. But when you're looking at another source that's doing this, are y'all going to be made aware of it?
And it's actually us administering the survey, so we are in control of all questions that will be part of that. So we're the one that's entering them on the computer, so we have absolute control. So what I can say to you is that once this is approved, if this is the approved survey, this is the final survey. No questions will be added to the survey, and then once we do the post in May, we're done.
Okay.
Let me
This is
speak,
close
Jada.
to a question for her.
You've had your time. So, based on that, then you'll have some type of version control that we could actually see on the survey, so that we can see that this survey is as of this effective date, and that way we could be assured that we have a control.
Absolutely.
And that I think that would help us understand, and if you were to ever make another change version-wise, then you would come back to us and let us know that there was a version change.
Absolutely. We can put a date down at the very bottom, so
Yes,
we're
and,
happy to
yeah,
do that.
I think that would really help control the document.
Sure.
All right, Mr. Harrison, now I'll let you speak.
Why, thank you, sir. I appreciate you, Jan, and I apologize if I was too eager. So we're saying that this current survey will be a template for future surveys, in effect?
No, sir.
No?
We have this grant, as far as what this project is, the trail project, we are only funded through May. So for this particular project, that is what I can assure. Any new survey, that would be up to Cabarrus County Schools and the board as to how you would want to see that move forward. But for this project, absolutely, we can assure that this is, I can't speak for other projects that may come on board. And if you want to add.
I hear, though, that we would be looking at a completely different survey each year or cycle this comes around, and would need, or this board might prefer some heads up and some extensive review of the actual survey. So if we're not going to duplicate or replicate, in effect, this survey into the future years, then we would have to start from zero, more or less, each time a new grant funding source and a new survey came along. And so we're hoping that this survey that looks much better
we can absolutely
will be
reassure you that
replicated.
any survey, and this program, this particular program, this grant cycle ends in May. And so if we are awarded any other grants that would have programs that would be in your schools, approved to be in your schools, any surveying that is ever done with any programs from the CHA will absolutely be approved by the board. Guaranteed.
Thank you.
All right, board members.
But that is up to Dr. Louder to make sure that that's done, so as long as you're right.
Well, I think Kim is saying that she's going to say that it's going to be guaranteed for that, but we certainly have heard that message, and John and Kim and Barbara and I and anybody that would be involved will say, let's send that to the board, right? So all surveys that come from the Health Alliance, we will run by the board. We will, unless we forget, and I have a hard time believing that we'll forget based on the past experience.
But our community is expecting someone that represents them to evaluate this before it comes to our kids. So again, it's important that we see that. Right now it is on the board docs. Is it also on the website where parents can see this new survey? They have 2 weeks now. If there's any other issues, they can come speak to us, but they've got 2 weeks to review it and give us comments.
Yeah, and Mr. Chairman, on a positive note, I just want to say there were some parents who contacted us who want their children to take this survey. So while, and that's a typical response. You hear about people who are upset about any particular issue, but there are parents who wanted them to participate. Thank you. So.
And I will also just say, in this survey, it still has opt-outs all through it, from not only for the parents, but there's opt-outs for the student as well if they are instructed that they mistakenly get it and they don't want to participate, they can still opt out.
We have tracked all of that. I think we're good. We have tracked all the opt-outs, and all opt-outs will be honored. Yep,
Thank you.
yes.
All right, board members, do you want this on the consent or action?
I'd like to see it on the action. Give
Action
people-
agenda.
People
All right.
opportunity to comment on it.
Okay. That takes us to our last item, which is naming of a new high school on Weddington Road. Board members, we got an exhaustive list and 70-some forms to go through this week. I don't know if you've had a chance to go through all of them. I know Ms. Furtenbaugh has done quite a job, and I think Ms. Carpenter has done so as well. So, board members, do you have some comments that you would like to make about what we've seen on the high school names?
Well, Mr. Chairman, as you said, I did spend a lot of time reviewing this. One, to try to get it down to the number of unique entries, because there were many repetitions. And while I think I appreciate the emails people are sending, we did have a deadline for sending suggestions. So while it's good input, sometimes it's repetitive. And so anybody who sent the emails, their entries are not on the list that was published in board docs, because these were only the ones that met the deadline.
They could have sent it prior to, some of these were email entries, so not to say that they sent an email.
Oh, right.
They sent a form, not to say we didn't, because there are
Right,
email.
I'm just saying there were a lot of emails
After
coming
the,
in
after the
yesterday.
deadline, yes, in
Yeah.
support of some of these things, sure.
Yeah. So just a couple of thoughts. For high schools, I tend to favor a location. However, just something for us to consider, using the name Weddington Hills or Weddington High School might be a little bit confusing, because Weddington High School in Matthews is on Weddington Road in Matthews. And so I think that's a little risky to do a Weddington name. We did have some suggestions on other location names, such as West Cabarrus and whatnot, which maybe is not real sexy or something, but it's it does better describe. It's not Southwest Cabarrus, even though those of us who live near 85 feel like we're kind of on the southwest side of the county because we're out of the county so fast. It's really not the southwest side of the county. So I actually had to look up the map on some of these to see where things were. We have tried to stay away from political references, especially people who are currently serving or are not removed from it for quite a few years, just because there is some risk with doing that. So certainly to consider the other times. And I just want to remind the board that if we use any person's name, we have guidelines that were previously drafted about the focus on education and education contributions. And so when I did my evaluation, I have included, just so that I could go through and kind of rank my preferences, whether the person was an educator, if they had education leadership contributions, and if it's a geographic or historical reference. So there were some interesting ones about historical references. Mr. Chair, I'd suggest that we all come up maybe with our top 3, 4, 5, whatever number seems where your line seems to be drawn, and maybe we can find some common ground on that.
Thank you, Ms. Furtenbaugh. Ms. Carpenter, I think that you would like to speak.
Well, you know that. You know that. Especially, you know how I feel about naming.
I know this is one of her most favorite things to do.
That in the policy on that other policy I have.
On
those
directory assistance?
No,
Student directory.
Student directory. You know I have that feeling on that. Direction, I think that it's very important when we look at schools. If we have new people coming into our area or someone looking for a school, it's very important for them to find it. And so, if they can kind of have directions on it or kind of know where it's at, it's very important. But if it's named after a person, that doesn't really tell them where it's at. that. And one of the things, and y'all have heard me say this more than once, you know, and I hate to even mention that, but, you know, when a person is sometimes still with us, they can sometimes do stuff, and it can come back to haunt you. You know, we have a building right now that is carrying the name of a person that's a felon, and that does not reflect good. And that, no, I mean, not the school system, but we've got a building in the county. And and I know everybody's going, oh no, which one? Not a school, people, but no, but I mean, we just never know, and I just, you know, and a lot of the names, I just want to thank everybody that submitted names. We had some great names. I mean, some real creative names, and I want to thank everybody that submitted the names. But we really got some real creative ones. And one of the ones that was submitted, I got a history lesson on this, and I thought it was really great that we got this, which was the Great Road. And we found out that road actually came through the property that we're looking at. And so I got on the internet and really learned about the Great Road, the Wagon Road, the Stagecoach Road, but this actually goes through the property. But I thought I actually got some education on this. But we got some really cool names. And you know, I don't think about our neighbors. I know, Cindy, you mentioned about the Weddington School, but that's our neighbors. Jay Robinson, we got a school named that, but we got one of those over in Charlotte, and we haven't had any difficulty with that. Now, is that not correct? There's a Robinson over in Charlotte, is there not?
It's a middle school man.
Well, that doesn't matter. It's still one over there.
Yeah. I'm more concerned about the Weddington High School on Weddington Road. That's getting really narrowed down and tight, because they would both be on Weddington Road.
Well, we've got Odell Primary and Odell Elementary too, and they're right there at Odell, but we haven't had any problem. And two, a lot of the names that were submitted also, some of these individuals, they've already got landmarks or roads already named after them, George Lyles, and so some of the individuals, Coleman, a lot of them already have things already named after them, so they're going to be remembered. So anyway, we do have a lot, and I agree with Cindy. Maybe if we can, well, there's roads already after them, so they're going to be remembered. And two, I had a great idea. Tell the commissioners we got a big rotunda there, and a lot of these people, they have made a lot of things. Why don't we get the commissioners to do bust in the rotunda after these people? And if people want to have their people recognized, they can get a bust made and put it in the rotunda. But one of the things I think is a great idea is for each board member, I know I did my little calculation and everything to kind of find out how many were duplicated, and for us to maybe each submit 4 names, and then that would cut the list of 70-something down to a more smaller list, and then we could each vote from that list. But I think we did have some real good names, but I would much rather go for a directional or area, because there we've got too many great people in this county and too many great people that were put on this list to say one is better than another.
Thank you, Ms. Carpenter. Mr. Walter?
Well, I also appreciate the history lesson on all the folks that have sent in suggestions and taken the time. I've learned quite a bit. I think narrowing it down is probably a good idea. I think if we can narrow it down to maybe a top 3 or something for each one of us, we can have a better discussion or a closer discussion to come to some consensus. I mean, just looking at what we have now, we have 7 traditional high schools, and 6 of those are location-based, right? So I think probably continuing along that line would make some sense. But again, those are my thoughts right now. I still need to review that and kind of narrow those down. I did kind of like some of the other options as far as talking more about the purpose of the school and thinking about some naming that's in that lines as well. But those are my thoughts.
Thank you, Mr. Walter. Mr. Harrison, did you have any comments?
Nothing other than what's been added already.
All right. All right, so we had some different suggestions about how to go about this and to get this down to a manageable number. Ms. Furtenbaugh said 3 or 4. Ms. Carpenter said 3 or 4. You're 4. So
3 or 4.
3 or 4. All right, so why don't we set a date? Do you think that it would be reasonable to provide the 3 to 4 names that you like the most, or that you think appeal to you and appeal to the area by Sunday evening?
I think, let's go. I suggest we go by this Friday, because I think we've probably mostly gone through the names and we can narrow it down, just because then we have all next week to kind of ponder over similarities and
I'd like to
differences.
see those names on the board docs, so folks will at least know what we're going to be discussing, what the narrowed names are.
So if
Oh, you mean the short list?
The short list by the next time the board docs comes out, which I think is next
and we
Wednesday
won't,
or
and
Thursday.
we'll just put what the short list is. So if you can send that to Ms. Carpenter and myself, we will try to get those names pared down and make sure that we have something comparative. And then we'll create the actual short list so that no one will know who is favoring what.
Yeah, because we could be swayed in the meantime once we
Right.
see the other names.
Yes, Ms. Carpenter.
Can I ask, as Cindy mentioned, it's not really southwest. Are we west? Where is the school actually located? Is it west? Is it north? Is it?
West Central.
Is it really west central?
There's the middle.
Okay, is it west central? Or just west?
Central is.
Is it west central? It can't be central. We already have one of them.
It's on the
But-
west side. It's on the west.
It's on the west though, but it's not southwest. Okay, so it's west, okay. But I got a central, so I can't have one of them, okay.
All right, so on Friday, does anybody have let me get my calendar out. All right, so Friday the 10th, at the close of business on Friday the 10th, if you'll submit your choices to both Ms. Carpenter and myself. 3 or 4. We'll give you, because I'm sure that, you'll need the Baker's 3, whatever that is. That's 4. All right, so we'll do that. So that carries us to the last item of the night, 7.1. And I think that there's a need for a motion to complete 7.1. That is adjournment.
Oh, I like that one.
All right.
I'll second that.
I thought you guys were following your thing a little closer than that. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay.
Oh, my.
We are adjourned.
I may get.